The internet is the most powerful information sharing tool ever devised. And do you know what most humans use it for?
I do, but I don't think I can say it.
Surprisingly, no, Pinky.
Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today we shall be doing a brief unboxing looking at the DVD releases of Seasons 1 and 2 of the Animaniacs reboot from 2020, which I'll be honest, I am really surprised that this show ended up with DVD releases to begin with. Never saw this coming. It seems a rarity for most sort of streaming exclusive programs to never really get any sort of physical release, let alone a DVD, which I'll be honest, Warner really have cheaped out on us considering how they could have put this series on Blu-ray so easily, but regardless, I'm grateful to have at least something physical for the collection to add with the rest of my Animaniacs related DVDs. And I'm really glad to see that this reboot has become a success. The original show lasted from 1993 through to 1998, and I absolutely love what they managed to achieve with the original show. It's something that really has stood the test of time in my eyes. A lot of the gags in there are very risque, to say the least, a lot of euphemistic humor.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
Stuff that really does have you doing a double take, considering this was meant to be, I guess, primetime children's television, and some of the euphemistic humor that they managed to squeeze into the writing is just absolute genius and something that really does carry over in my eyes into the reboot.
He's an influencer now.
I thought he was a Shih Tzu.
Good night, everybody.
And this reboot was announced in 2018, with the first season releasing for streaming on Hulu in 2020. And I loved the confidence behind this reboot. They ordered 2 seasons immediately, with a 3rd season on its way. And overall, in terms of the format, it still remains more or less the same. The primary focus is on the sort of main Warner characters, Yakko, Wakko, and Dot. But we also have Pinky and the Brain as well being brought to the forefront, of which those were honestly my personal favourites from the Animaniacs era. Definitely some incredible voice performances.
This is the Brain. You are under my control. You will do whatever I say until Pinky says...
Well, what I'm going to say is I don't care what you say.
And alongside these classic 90s characters, there are a couple of new characters introduced into this reboot. And of course, unfortunately, some missing characters as well. Mainly Hello Nurse being a prominent one, which was publicly addressed during the announcement of the reboot, where showrunner Wellesley Wild essentially stated that this character was a product of the time and wouldn't really work for a more sort of contemporary audience. And I feel this was likely for the best, where I guess changing a character like that beyond all recognition would almost be like admitting fault for her previous portrayal. Therefore, it seems, I guess, more respectful to retire a character like that and accept the past for what it was, which is admirable in my eyes. But with what's new about this series, honestly, the characters are more or less the same, but are very much changed to adapt to a new format of animation. And it's clear from the first episode and its cold opening that this show is very much all about the pop culture sense of things, with the Jurassic Park skit mimicking one of the most iconic scenes from that original film, and how these characters, even though they're being sort of brought into the modern day, are still very much a product of the 90s, and surprisingly that works. And looking at the DVD sets themselves, these are very much what I like to term bare-bone releases. Very limited in terms of what's included, unfortunately, no extras or anything like that to make these kind of worth your money. You're literally just getting the shows themselves, the original episodes, of which there are 13 episodes on each season, and they are roughly about 20 minutes each, the usual kind of length. Some of them are extended. I think the longest I've seen thus far is about 25 minutes. So I guess you are getting what you pay for in terms of the overall quality content. It's just unfortunate that there's no sort of added bonus to purchasing the DVDs other than obviously supporting the show a little bit more and having something to add to your collection if you prefer to have physical media like myself. And so with the 13 episodes that are included on here, I've only seen, I would say, about 7 episodes thus far, and I'll be honest, so far so good for the vast majority. I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far. And for a show that clearly kind of recognizes the fact that it's a reboot, of which it's very transparent about that point, which is honestly fantastic. Definitely some very transparent comedy about what this as a product really is. Transporting 90s cartoon characters into the modern era, the writing quality for that alone works absolutely fine. The animation style is also very enjoyable, with very minimal changes compared to other sort of recent reboot projects that still adapt the original show but completely change the style almost to an unrecognizable level, such as something, I guess, Invader Zim springs to mind off the top of my head. And particularly, I love the color vibrance with this series. It does make a lot of difference to the style and the character designs to make things really pop aesthetically, and that's something that I was very much a big fan of when just admiring the new style of animation. And looking through the list of episodes pictured on the back, I am realizing that, I'll be honest, I've seen a lot more than I anticipated. I'm actually up to episode 10, but there's some really great shorts throughout this series. I absolutely loved, like I mentioned before, the introductory piece, Jurassic Lark. The suspended animation parts were quite interesting, with the Warners sort of getting to grips with the modern era. Of Mice and Memes was the first of the Pinky and the Brain based stories, and I really loved that, with Brain capitalizing on social media popularity using cutesy animal pictures to try and hypnotize the world, who are so gullible into clicking on the most naive of things online, only for something else to kind of take place of what he was using. And the popularity cycle begins all over again and falls apart for Brain. I love those kinds of stories. Suffragette City was a memorable short, with Dot Warner being an activist for cartoon characters having the right to vote. And that was a very amusing sketch, with there being so many cartoon character cameos of various sort of Warner and Hanna-Barbera properties from the past sort of 50 to 70 years or so. Some really crazy cameos throughout that one in particular. I really liked Axe Mousiner. That was a great short, with Brain creating a robotic version of himself. The Cutening was a very memorable episode, really for all the wrong reasons, which I wasn't really a fan of that episode, but I did admire the change in animation, where Dot Warner is tired of how grotesque their animated world is, and so she makes everything cutesified. And then in terms of the, I guess, the newer sort of related characters, the one that I genuinely really liked was Starbox and Cindy, where this little sort of alien character is being held hostage by a little girl, and the little kid is just trying to basically use the alien as a toy, making it sit in a doll's house, etc. All the while it's just trying to escape, and from what it looks like, conquer the planet with the rest of its species. Maybe there'll be more to that as I progress through the rest of these episodes, but honestly, so far so good. I've enjoyed this reboot really for what it is, just as, I guess, a cash grab in a sense, but at least it's a cash grab that is actually funny. So that's something to focus on as a positive, if nothing else. There's the discs, very minimal artwork, and a cheapo EcoBox case as well. And here is the second season DVD set, very samey in terms of the illustrations and packaging design. Again, 13 episodes. There's the list if you wish to have a flick through those. And the discs as well, again, cheapo casing, and no artwork as such on the DVD discs. Anyhow, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see more content relating to the Animaniacs and, of course, Pinky and the Brain. And for more content, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?